1998 was maybe the greatest year of video games of all time. Each of the major platforms had a game that revolutionized the industry in terms of 3D game design, mechanics, and cinematography. All three of these games regularly land spots on all-time greatest game lists, and if you were around at the time, one of these three is your absolute favorite game ever. I don't think I'm even exaggerating that. If you played games in 1998, whatever platform you had, N64, PlayStation, or PC, one of these games is a favorite of yours. And I'm not even including the Western release of Pokemon. I'll be talking about those other two console favorites soon enough, including my own longtime favorite game. But today, let's talk about 1998's best PC game, one of the smartest FPS games ever made. If you know it, say it with me now, Half-Life.
That's right! Hello everyone, and welcome to another new episode of Backlogged, and I'm finally finishing some classics that I've missed out on for decades. Today I want to try and change a little bit about how I put these videos together. So far my videos are basically just game reviews, and that's perfectly fine. I don't want to change that or anything. That's not a problem at all. But the concept of the show is that I'm trying to finish my video game backlog, and through that, essentially, I want to talk about my experience in attempting to do that and use what I'm learning to try and teach you what to do with yours. So this time I'm going to try and talk about that experience of finishing, in this case, Half-Life, and share some of the unique things that, that were maybe caused some problems, some obstacles that I had to work through, or just things that went well, and just I want to be real open about my experience in trying to go through these games. And I might even focus on one or two ideas specifically that may be able to help you as you try to clear your own backlog. I'm still going to give my own ratings on each game, if you want to call them ratings. And all I want is to pull back the curtain a bit on what it's like for me playing through these games, trying my hardest to finish them. If all of that I just said doesn't make much sense, that's perfectly fine. Let's just move ahead, and hopefully you'll understand what I'm trying to communicate as we talk about my journey through Half-Life. Let's go!
One thing I like to talk about in these videos is how I came to own a game. To me, sorting through the backlog is similar to cleaning out your stuff when you move out. It's just interesting to me to think about why I bothered to buy a game in the first place. Often I know I want to play it, sometimes it's morbid curiosity, sometimes I can't even recall when or why I bought it. In the case of Half-Life, I've been aware of its historical importance for a little while, so I eventually downloaded it on Valve's good old Steam platform. Now that I think of it, would they have had a download for this game in 98? Like, was it on a disc? I'm just saying, I didn't have a computer that could even play Half-Life until 2003. And even then, a Half-Life download would have easily taken me at least half a day. At any rate, I'd heard plenty of lists and whatnot talk about Half-Life, but even before that, I used to have a friend. Shocking, I know. This was the kind of friend in middle school that I would later learn was quoting Napoleon Dynamite with every other sentence he ever said, and we would civilly discuss whether Zelda or Half-Life was the best game ever. Yes, civilly, like a couple tween gentlemen. Finally, eventually, I got it downloaded in maybe 2020? At the time I was doing Let's Play videos to learn a bit about how to do game capture and little bits of video stuff, and I thought, hey, let's play something everyone loves that I've never touched. My friends, that was a mistake. For the streamers out there, if you can handle entertaining an audience while trying to figure out a game you've never played before, I applaud you. I cannot do it. I've only realized recently that if I'm going to chat while playing, I better not have to think about the gameplay. But enough about me and my unfortunate choices, let me cover the game's story. When you load up, you are given immediate control over Dr. Gordon Freeman, a researcher starting his shift at Black Mesa Research Facility. We're talking Area 51 style, underground government controlled kind of research here. After your usual morning routine, you are given a fancy hazmat suit and sent into something that looks like a reactor. They give you some materials to insert into the field they've generated, and oh no, a portal into space? Mass chaos and havoc is wreaked across the station as hostile aliens pour through and kill everyone in sight? And the military wants to keep it all quiet, so they're also killing all the employees, and not just the aliens? Well, that sounds like a typical 9 to 5 to me, but Freeman's definitely accruing some OT, and should probably receive some extra hazard pay. If only they'd hire more hard workers like Freeman here, maybe things could run a little smoother around here. I might as well get this out of the way. While I am treating this review as my first time playing this game, that's not completely true. Before I started Backlogged, I was doing Let's Play videos because they're easy to make, and I hadn't figured out what exactly I wanted to do here yet. So that's when I played through Half-Life, and let me tell you, I have a huge amount of respect for anyone who can carry on a conversation, especially with a silent audience, while playing a game. It is hard to do, especially when you've never touched the game before. I say this because I might as well have not been playing the game at all. Trying to talk things out while I was playing meant I was more concerned with making progress, or just being slightly less trash at playing the game than actually taking in the experience. I was frustrated basically the whole time because I didn't know what I was doing in the game or in the video. So this time around, I was more focused and had experience. But to keep it fresh, I also played the expansions, Blue Shift and Opposing Force. And I gotta say, while the graphics and audio, specifically the voices, do not hold up anymore,
Corporal Shepard, is it? I've read the tag on your uniform.
the game is still very playable. Even a console peasant like me was able to adapt to mouse and keyboard fairly well, though my child-sized hands really hate that walk and crouch are down on the shift and control keys, while my hand was locked into the WASD position. But more than that, the gunplay is satisfying and frantic, and the puzzles are among the most clever I've seen in any game ever. If you want to watch my horrible Let's Play, I'll link the playlist here and in the description. But while I totally see why this game was blowing minds in '98, and why it's still pretty dang good today, I had some lessons to learn in my journey to clear this game out of my backlog. I'm gonna do something new here in this video. This might become a recurring element in my reviews, but right now, it's time for my backlogged lesson of the day, courtesy of Half-Life. If there's one thing I learned from Half-Life, it's that failure is never an option, it's inevitable. Now be honest, when is the last time you beat a game without ever dying once? Aside from technicalities like a deathless, cozy sim game, like Stardew Valley or something. Besides that, I'll bet it's tough to think of one. Maybe you're a speedrunner or pro gamer or whatever, but most of us are gonna fail at least a few times in a video game. And for me, specifically, I fail constantly. This is even more true for gameplay genres that I don't play as often. There are plenty of FPS games I like, but I just don't play them that much. So you take an old school style FPS with limited health shield and ammo pickups littered all over, on a platform that I seldom play, the PC, with contextual puzzles that are way smarter than your average shooter? Yeah, Half-Life kicked my butt. A lot. Trying to do a Let's Play with that game was an awful idea. So when I jumped in this time, I had a much better idea how to play and finish this game, so I got to give it a fair chance, particularly with the expansions that I never touched. To break down the gameplay loop here, it basically rotates between 3 types of sections: navigation, shooting, and cinematic moments. Regardless which section you're in, there's almost always some kind of puzzle to solve. Whether it's a question of where do I go, or how do I get there, or why won't you die, puzzles are everywhere. Once you understand how the game is designed, it's usually not too hard, but the game doesn't make it obvious what you're meant to do. If I have to give one bit of advice to a newcomer, listen to the aliens disguised as researchers when they talk to you. Look, I know they're meant to be like snobby, smart, old guys, but they really don't sound human. I'm onto you, Mr. Einstein cosplay dude. Seriously, don't ignore these guys when they talk to you. That's actually how the game tells you what to do. As long as you do that, puzzle solutions will only occasionally feel like a Charlie Brown football moment. Overall, the original game went down way smoother for me this time, right up until the chapter called Surface Tension. Yeah, that one got me super depressed on the Let's Play, and it didn't go much better here. For some reason, it's way longer than all the chapters before, like 3 times longer. And with all the restarts that I had to use, it took me 5 times longer than other chapters to record. So frustrating. Even the stupid jumping stuff in Zen wasn't so bad this time. I did happen to notice that there is no tutorial for how to do the long jump. They give you the module to unlock it right before Zen and say you should probably practice without any button prompts or fourth wall breaking explanation of the controls. But then, I might have just missed it too, because I, for one, have a real hard time processing audio information. Something in my brain is wired so that I can hear and comprehend each individual word in a sentence, but the meaning of the overall sentence just doesn't click right away. Anyway, subtitles would solve almost every single one of my problems in this case, but accessibility wasn't a priority in games at the time, and they clearly made this to be as immersive as possible. Guess that's fine. It just leaves me a little more frustrated than I need to be. Also, the Nihilith boss is still an awful fight. Moving on to expansions, Blue Shift was one of 2 expansions added to the game. Just being honest here, I'm not sure why Blue Shift was even made. Story-wise, you take on the perspective of one of the security guys, Calhoun, and try to escape with as many researchers as possible. Thing is, your arsenal and armor options are actually more limited. And aside from a neat puzzle or 2, I was left at the end just saying, that was it? I think it was fine and all, it just wasn't compelling. Only play Blue Shift if you're desperate for just a little more Half-Life and you don't yet have Half-Life 2. Opposing Force is the true expansion here. Yes, you do get another perspective shift. This time you're playing as one of the military personnel sent to get control of the situation and cover things up, which is much more of a difference compared to the security guard from before. This change means you get access to all new weaponry, some of it even new alien weaponry, and you get your charging shields back. It's also got a lot more action with new enemies, though it's still peppered with puzzles, and there's even completely new gameplay mechanics. It was quite refreshing to play through after the frankly dull Blue Shift expansion, and may very well be my favorite part of the OG Half-Life experience. Like its OG predecessor though, it did have one huge pain-in-the-neck chapter that took a long time to clear, and I had to save scum through it. Maybe a couple of chapters like that actually. The combat got real stressful while I was approaching the end. The expansions really highlight what Half-Life is all about. Environmental puzzles in Blue Shift and intense shooting combat in Opposing Force. In the main game, these are really well balanced to keep you moving forward through the whole experience, maintaining an excellent pace, only causing hiccups when you haven't internalized the lessons the game is teaching you. Puzzles, it's looking for unique elements and listening to the Twilight Zone NPCs. For combat, it's dying over and over until you know where enemies are and the best method for dispatching them. It feels like playing a classic because it is a classic, which does leave parts of the game feeling a little too old, but in a quaint sort of way. I am glad to have played it, and wouldn't mind coming back to it someday.
In a way, it feels a little weird for me to count this game as an overall positive experience, only because of the personal gamer rage that I experienced going through it. I really struggle when a game is just killing me over and over again, and I don't understand why, but I do think that Half-Life was meant to be played that way. Since you can save at any point in this game, you're clearly meant to just practice, and while you could end up saving yourself in the middle of a inescapable situation, it also autosaves for you, so you could go back and retry the area if you need to. The story, while a little bit on the nerdy side, is rather straightforward and fun to experience, but there's definitely enough world building here for you to dig really deep into its mysteries, if you choose to do so. As shooter games go, this one is way smarter than most of them, and definitely feels like a classic, even if there are some technical restraints just due to how old the game is. So if you still have this game in your Steam backlog, it's well worth a playthrough, so go ahead and finish it. If you learn to push through any frustrations you may or may not have, I'm not the greatest at video games in general, but if you do experience that frustration, you learn to push through it, I think you'll find an overall very enjoyable game here with Half-Life. That's all for today. Happy gaming. Final note though, this whole deal, this is the best I could do to mimic Mr. Freeman's glorious goatee. Don't expect it anymore. It's been driving me nuts. It will be gone next time. Okay, I'm out.
Thanks so much for watching my episode on Half-Life today. If you've been with my channel for a while, I'm sorry this took so long. I'll probably put up a separate video to explain kind of what's going on there. But in the meantime, your hint about the next video is that a guest character was somewhat recently announced, maybe even out now, for Tekken 8. And this game is the original game this character starred in. I'll see you soon.